When the Third Reich collapsed in 1945, the Allies uncovered more than ruins. They found stolen art worth billions, diamond-studded Batons, Hitler's armored limousine, and even his desk from the Führerbunker. But what happened to these belongings of Nazi Germany's most powerful men? Some ended up in museums, others in private collections, and many vanished into mystery. In this video, we'll uncover their fate. No Nazi leader embodied excess quite like Hermann Göring. While his armies bombed Europe, Göring was busy building a private empire of treasures. At his lavish Karinhal estate near Berlin, he amassed over 1,500 looted artworks. Rembrandts, Rubens, Van Goghs, even Vermeers. Entire galleries stripped bare to feed his obsession. But art wasn't enough. Göring also surrounded himself with flamboyant uniforms stitched with the finest fabrics, gem-encrusted rings and ceremonial swords made for display, not combat. His vanity reached its peak with the Field Marshal's batons. Most officers received one. Göring demanded two, one for his rank as Luftwaffe Field Marshal and another when Hitler promoted him to the unique rank of Reichsmarschall, a position above all other generals and admirals. The second baton was unlike any other. Carved from white elephant ivory, banded with platinum and set with more than 600 diamonds. It was the single most extravagant symbol of military power in Nazi Germany, a glittering testament to Göring's ego. When the Reich collapsed, Karinhal was blown up, but much of his hoard survived. The Monuments Men, the Allied unit dedicated to recovering stolen art, tracked down hundreds of his looted paintings in salt mines and castles. Yet other possessions, uniforms, jewels, and ceremonial batons were seized as trophies. Today, Göring's two batons survive not in private collections but in American museums. His Luftwaffe Field Marshal baton is displayed at the National Infantry Museum in Fort Benning, Georgia, while his diamond-studded Reichsmarschall baton rests at West Point Museum, United States Military Academy, New York. Glittering symbols of a regime built on vanity, stripped of their power, they now sit behind glass as reminders of arrogance and ruin. If Göring defined himself through extravagance, Hitler's belongings told a different story: power, symbolism, and failed ambition. His most famous possession was the Mercedes-Benz 770K Grosser, an armored limousine built like a fortress. Photographs of Hitler riding in the back, arm raised in salute, made it one of the most recognizable machines of the Third Reich. Captured intact, it later passed through collectors, displayed in museums, and even auctioned for millions. In the Führerbunker, his possessions were more modest but no less symbolic. A heavy desk and a black bakelite telephone engraved with his name. From these, Hitler gave his last desperate orders as Berlin burned. Both were seized as trophies, and decades later, the telephone resurfaced at auction, where in 2017 it sold for nearly $250,000. Marketed as the most destructive weapon of all time, it drew both fascination and outrage, proof that even the most ordinary object can carry a terrifying weight when tied to history. Then there were his paintings. Long before politics, Hitler had dreamed of being an artist. Rejected by Vienna's Art Academy, he scraped by painting watercolors in cityscapes and landscapes. After the war, these amateur canvases became famous curiosities, valued not for their quality, but for the shadow of the man who signed them. Several of these watercolors have appeared at auctions in Germany, selling for between $100,000 and $400,000. Each sale sparks debate. Should the art of a dictator be preserved or erased? And it wasn't just paintings. Adolf Hitler's top hat sold for $55,000, while a silver-covered edition of Mein Kampf and Eva Braun's cocktail dress went for twice the expected value. Whatever the answer, collectors continue to pay, chasing a strange irony in landscapes painted by a man who would later reduce Europe to rubble. Together, Hitler's belongings form a strange legacy. A dictator's limousine, a bunker desk, and sketches of a failed painter, artifacts that reflect both the height of his power and the mediocrity of the life he once wanted instead. If Göring hoarded paintings and Hitler rode in armored limousines, the Third Reich as a whole hoarded something even simpler: gold. As the war dragged on, the Reichsbank seized vast reserves of bullion, foreign currency, and jewelry stolen from occupied nations and concentration camp victims. The scale was staggering. Hundreds of millions in today's value, melted into bars, stuffed into crates, and hidden away. When the Allies advanced in 1945, they discovered caches buried deep inside salt mines in Merkers, Germany. It contained over 100 tons of gold, crates of foreign currency and priceless artworks. General Dwight Eisenhower himself visited the site to witness the haul. Soldiers photographed themselves knee-deep in treasure, images that captured the sheer scale of Nazi plunder and became enduring evidence of the regime's greed. But not all of it was found. Some shipments vanished as the Reich collapsed. Legends grew of trains loaded with gold disappearing into the tunnels of Poland, or of crates dumped into alpine lakes as fleeing officials tried to cover their tracks. The most famous story, the so-called Nazi gold train, still fuels treasure hunters today, though no proof has ever been uncovered. What is certain is that a fortune once bankrolled the war effort, and only part of it has ever been traced. Some of that gold was melted down and used to rebuild Europe after the war. Some lie locked in national vaults, and some, perhaps, still wait beneath mountain rock or dark water, a glittering reminder of history's greatest theft. Not every treasure of the Third Reich glittered with gold. Some of the most chilling possessions were notebooks bound in leather and filled with ink. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, kept meticulous wartime diaries. They recorded everything from mundane details about his meals and doctor's visits to chilling orders for deportations, executions, and meetings with Hitler. At the war's end, these records were scattered. Some were seized by the Allies for use in war crimes trials, others disappeared into Soviet archives, hidden from the public view for decades. Then in 2013, a remarkable discovery. Volumes from 1938, 43, and 44 were found in the Russian Ministry of Defense archive in Podolsk. Historians were stunned. In stark detail, they revealed the dual life of one of Nazi Germany's most powerful men, an ordinary routine of family and health, intertwined with the machinery of Nazi Germany. Today, these diaries remain preserved in Russian archives, studied as critical evidence of how bureaucracy and ideology combined to create one of history's darkest systems. Since their rediscovery, historians have used them to cross-check SS operations with Himmler's personal routines, offering a chillingly precise view of how mass murder was planned alongside the most banal details of daily life. Unlike jewels or paintings, their value is not in wealth, but in the grim truth they reveal. Joseph Goebbels, the master of Nazi propaganda, built his empire not only with radio broadcasts and speeches, but also with books. In his Berlin residence, shelves sagged under the weight of thousands of annotated volumes, philosophy, literature, history. His marginal notes laid bare the mind behind the propaganda. After the war, his library was dismantled. Some books were seized as trophies, others packed away in Soviet or American archives. Over time, the collection vanished, fragmented in storage rooms. In 2012, an auction house placed Goebbels' youthful letters, essays, and school writings on the block, hoping for upwards of $200,000 to $300,000. But the collection failed to sell, perhaps because these items felt too personal, too disturbing, or too charged to be commodified. Today, any volume bearing Goebbels' signature or ex libris is rare, and when it does surface, at an auction or rare book sale, it carries immense historical weight, far beyond its physical form. If Göring hoarded art and Hitler clung to cars and paintings, Martin Bormann's treasure was money itself. As Hitler's private secretary and the Nazi Party's treasurer, Bormann controlled secret accounts, offshore transfers, and the Reich's hidden wealth. He oversaw the movement of gold, cash, and industrial shares into banks in Switzerland and South America, a financial shadow network meant to secure the regime's survival. When Berlin fell in 1945, Bormann disappeared. For decades, his fate remained a mystery, and so did the fortune he controlled. Some believed he escaped to Argentina with Nazi millions. Others thought he died in the ruins, his assets scattered or siphoned off by collaborators. What is certain is that much of the party's money simply vanished. Traces of Nazi accounts have surfaced in post-war banking investigations, but the full scale of Bormann's hidden empire has never been mapped. Historians estimate that it could have been worth millions, even hundreds of millions, in today's currency. Unlike a jeweled baton or a painting hanging on a wall, Bormann's belongings were intangible. Numbers on ledgers, signatures on transfers, suitcases of cash that could vanish overnight. And that very intangibility keeps the mystery alive. To this day, Bormann's assets fuel conspiracy theories of secret Nazi wealth, lost bank accounts, and hidden fortunes buried in the jungles of South America. More than 80 years later, his true legacy may not be in documents or objects, but in the money trails that still haven't gone cold. The fall of the Third Reich left behind more than destruction. It left behind treasures: Göring's stolen art, Hitler's car and desk, Himmler's diaries, and gold that may still be hidden today. Some became evidence at Nuremberg, some were locked away in museums, others were looted as trophies or disappeared forever. These objects remind us that history isn't just written in battles and speeches, but in the possessions people leave behind. Each one, a painting, a baton, a book, carries the shadow of a dark period in history. If you found the story compelling, check out our next video, What Happened to Hitler's Money After World War II, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories of the war.